Hello lads and lasses, TRC Plays here, and today we are going to be talking about a Tier 4 battleship that I know and love. A Tier 4 Russian battleship, Pyotr Velikiy, or as most people call it, Comrade Kongovich. I'd call it Pyotr Velikiy, but whatever. This thing is either a battleship or a battlecruiser, depending on who you're asking. Battlecruiser because it can move, battleship because it has armor. Let's talk about the history of Pyotr Velikiy, shall we? Which can be summed up in about 5 words. Well, 5 words. It can be summed up in just a few sentences. Pyotr Velikiy was Izmail. Yes, you heard me right, this thing is Izmail. You know what it is though? It's the Putilov design for Izmail. Izmail originally, the original Izmail that we know and love, has 1 turret in the front and all the 3 turrets facing the rear. This has the classic battleship design we all know and love. 2 turrets in the front, 2 turrets in the back. The classic Russian battleship design is very different than what we got in Pyotr Velikiy. So we got the classic battleship design here, whereas Izmail gets busted Russian design and also armor. But this is the losing contract. Pyotr Velikiy was designed by the Putilov company, which lost the deal on the Izmail project. So instead of us getting this, we got the Izmail, which looks like an Octobrina. That's because it probably is, because it has 1 turret, 3 turrets in the back. As for now, enough of rambling, because this thing clearly doesn't even have history to begin with. Let's talk about the commander, Mikhail Kudrov. Now, this is my standard build for Russian battleships. Yes, I do tend to brawl with my Russian battleships. I'll explain later for the people who don't like to use the legend skill. As inspirations, I have Cunningham and Revell. Revell for the reload time and Cunningham for the shell grouping. Kedrov's base trait is the improvement of the traverse speed of battleship guns. Mine is level 16 legendary 4, so expect WD 40. As for first skill, we have Brawler, which decreases the reload time even more, and also increases torpedo detectability range, but you get smacked in the face because you lose a lot of range. Then we have Crisscross for the main battery traverse speed. I wouldn't recommend going for Porcupine, because 1, you're not a German battleship, 2, you really don't need the secondary guns unless you're in arena, which we'll get to that later. Third skill, Volunteer. Firefighter isn't bad, but collective labor is okay, but volunteer you get 2 extra damage control charges, so pretty much it eliminates the use for these 2. Speaking of charges, we also have Master Mechanic for the repair party reload time, amount of HP recovered, and repair party charges, which you get 2 of, which is arguably more useful than the enhanced secondary targeting duration and reaching out XXL. Now in my opinion, I brawl with mine, so the legend skill is going to be very different. You can use will to rebuild if you're in a division. I recommend using will to rebuild if you're in a division, and even in random battles, but trust me, nobody's going to stay in your will to rebuild circle in a random battle by yourself. I would go for running with scissors because of the main battery traverse speed and the enhanced rudder shift, but at the same time your accuracy gets hit by a truck. But in my opinion, the Russian battleships excel in mid to close range brawling. This skill is completely irrelevant unless you're playing Poltava. But with running with scissors, you do get very useful traverse speed, and Russian battleships tend to have slow, but not American levels of slow traverse speed. So that's enough about our commander. I recommend using Kedrov. Galler, not so much. But if you want to use Galler, I'm not stopping you. I mean, the skills that I have for Galler are pretty much my Poltava skills. So this is the second build that I can suggest. But the thing is, he has the world's most useless skill for any battleship, and that's to increase HE shell damage. That should be a skill given to the British, not the Russian. And as you can see, you could just use Flammable Cannoneer or not one for the nuisance. Then you could just use Crisscross, Marksmanship, and Reaching Out XXL, and will to rebuild. So that's the Galler build for Pyotr Velikiy. I recommend Kedrov more because Kedrov is more useful. And let's talk about the upgrades. As for the upgrades, aiming systems, not even a choice, just aiming systems. Secondary battery, not even worth it, unless you're playing a German battleship. Main battery mod, unless you're playing the Americans. AA gun, unless you're very playing the Americans. Now, Pyotr Velikiy AA is not the best, but at tier 4, carrier aircraft tend to be made of paper, so it wouldn't be that big of a problem. Artillery, you do get 356mm guns, which is nice. You also get accurate 356mm guns, something that Congo doesn't have. As for survivability, you are incredibly tanky, besides non-existent torpedo damage reduction. Maneuverability, yeah. You're fast, but you turn like a truck. This is a lot like playing the Russian cruisers. Shores, for example, has a turning traverse that's worse than some aircraft carriers. And as for concealment, nobody really does stealth builds in Pyotr Velikiy, let alone in any Russian battleship unless you're playing Poltava. Armor, you are a walking steel fortress. I mean, especially your bow has so many different colors for its armor. And especially you get to the bow in general, it has like 75 to like that small 180mm plating on the side. And on PC, I know, we're on Legends, but on PC, Pyotr Velikiy can bow tank Yamatos. It can. As for side armor, well, if we just take away all of this, that's the Citadel. Side armor, non-existent. So basically, if you want to Citadel this thing, just aim for below the secondary guns, because that's exactly where the Citadel is. Just aim below the secondary guns and just fire. That's how you death strike Pyotr Velikiy's. But if the enemy Pyotr Velikiy is angled, then you are up against a powerful Russian battleship player, one that has played the entire line. Again, in terms of overview, you get the AP pen and ironclad for average armor thickness, but at the same time, the Russian battleships do get heavily neutered by having limited damage control party. And in my opinion, they deserve it per se, because imagine if they didn't have limited damage control party and you look at those stats, like 8-second consumable duration and reload time of 36 seconds. Yeah, not really ideal. As for the other consumables, you only have repair party and enhanced secondary targeting. You don't really have an option for a spotter, because, well, where do you want to place a spotter or a catapult in general? And that's pretty much it for Pyotr Velikiy. I place it as one of, if not the best tier 4 battleships that you could ever play. And granted, the ship next to it, Cesare, is better, because you do get tier 6 to tier 7 penetration, but you just lose a lot of tankiness to it, because Giulio Cesare is actually squishy. Pyotr Velikiy is not. It's a floating steel fortress. It has more armor than Bismarck has. That's a joke, by the way. But to be honest, I'd recommend grinding the Russian battleship line a lot. If you like brawling and mid-range combat, this is the line for you. Now I have some gameplay, and the gameplay that I have is from the Arena season, in which Pyotr Velikiy excels in Arena. Not as much as Kamikaze, because it has bullshit dispersion, or Giulio Cesare, which has god tier pen, but Pyotr Velikiy is a monster. I recommend playing Pyotr Velikiy if Arena does come back for tier 4s. So Pyotr Velikiy I recommend a lot. So start grinding the line, you'll have fun. Trust me. Anyway, enjoy the gameplay I'm rolling for you right about now.
Силы противника на горизонте. Башня главного калибра выведена из строя.
Линкор уничтожен.